Hey, I want to welcome you here today. I don't know if this is obvious or you would pick this up looking at me, but I have never been really good at basketball. I've never been one that's been known for having mad basketball skills. In fact, what I found out is that my skill is actually making people mad while I play basketball. And I found this out when I first moved here from Ohio. I took the job as the senior high pastor at Crossroads. And one of the things that the staff did at that point is that after staff meetings, all staff meetings, a group would go out and they would play basketball together, that they would play some b-ball. And so I wanted to be a good colleague. I wanted to jump in and just try to fit in. So I went out and played with them the first couple times. Phil, you can go ahead and bring the stand out anytime if you want. Hey there, look at that. Give him a hand. Give him a hand. Not only can he preach, his biceps are incredible. Yeah, so I jumped in and I would go out and I don't know whether they stopped playing after my few times or they just stopped telling me about when they were playing. But I ceased to exist because I would make people mad when I played basketball. Usually it was Phil. He would get mad at me for missing an easy layup or a jump shot. But other times I would make people mad, like former staff members that are no longer with us. One of the times it was the most beautiful day for a game of basketball. The sun was shining, the breeze was just blowing, and I was standing outside of the three-point line. And Dave, the guy I replaced at Crossroads, he was standing just inside the three-point line. And so one of my teammates I noticed had gotten open underneath the basket. And so I knew that if I could just get that guy the basketball, he would make an easy layup and I would get the assist and the glory in that moment. So I wound up for an overhead pass to my teammate. And the only problem with this strategy was that Dave, who was about 6'5", and his enormous head, found its way between the ball and the completed pass. And so when I threw the pass, it hit Dave square in the face, and his very expensive sunglasses split in two and shot out sideways. Needless to say, he was very upset with me in that moment. See, I told you I had mad basketball skills. And after that, they never asked me to play basketball again with them because when it comes to b-ball, JB got no game. I got no game. Now, if you got no game like me in this area or in other areas, or you've seen somebody that has no game, you feel sorry for them. It's sort of embarrassing for them. But this idea of not having game, I wondered what would happen if a church had no game? Like what would happen if a Christian or a follower of Jesus didn't have game? And it's not just embarrassing if this is the case. This is what I realized. It's not just embarrassing. It's actually quite dangerous. It's dangerous for a church or for a Christian to think that what they're doing in their life is a slam dunk for Jesus. But everybody around them, everybody on the outside knows that they're actually just stinking up the court. And so at Crossroads, our desire is to bring people to Jesus and Jesus to people. That's our game. We don't want to be a church that has no game. Instead, we want to be the exact opposite of that. We want to be a church full of playmakers. We want to be playmakers. What's a playmaker? Well, I looked it up in the dictionary, and here's the official definition. A playmaker is someone who makes plays that put their team in the best possible position to score. A playmaker is somebody who makes plays that puts their team in the best possible position to score. And I think as I scan the landscape of the NBA, one of the most famous playmakers on the planet was actually a guy named Irvin Johnson, who's also known as who? Magic Johnson. They call him Magic not because he carried a wand or cast Harry Potter spells, but because he was one of the greatest playmakers in NBA history. Unlike other basketball greats, he wasn't known for his scoring, but rather he was known for his passing. He successfully served his team throughout his entire career by averaging just over 11 assists every single game, making him the NBA's all-time passing person. The assists per game, he has more than anybody else. And so as I looked at magic, I asked the question, what made magic such a great playmaker? Well, simply, he could see all the opportunities that were around him all the time. He could see all the opportunities that were all around him all the time. And because of that, magic could make passes that no one else could make because he could see potential plays that no one else could see. And it didn't matter whether you were 5 feet away from him or 50 feet away from him. He could get you the ball so that you could score. And as I thought about magic, I thought about our church. Because at Crossroads, we want to do the same thing that he did. As a church, we want to see all the opportunities that are all around us. At Crossroads, we want to be a church of playmakers who play the game, not like magic played it, but rather like Jesus played it. We want to move in our lives like Jesus moved. We want to love people like Jesus loved people. We want to serve people as Jesus served people. We want to see the opportunities that Jesus was able to see. We want to be playmakers who make plays just like Jesus did. And so since Jesus is our example, the question is, what did that look like for him? What did it look like for him to be a playmaker on this planet? And in this series, it looks like bless. In this series, we've been looking at Jesus' command to love your neighbor as you love yourself through the lens of the letters of this word bless, B-L-E-S-S. And so to be a playmaker, to impact our world as Jesus did, we have to begin with prayer. We've got to begin with prayer. We start by listening to God, asking him, where do you want me to go? How do you want to use me? What neighbor can I love? We begin with prayer, but then we listen with care. We listen not with the intent to reply, but we listen with the intent to understand the other person, to connect, to empathize. Listening communicates way more than words. Listening to another person says to that person that we care, that you care about them and that they matter to you. B-L-E. E stands for eat together. To quote the philosopher and theologian Pillsbury Doughboy, nothing says lovin' like something from the oven, right? It's straight out of the Bible, I think. Now, I would say it may not be in the Bible, but nothing accomplishes Jesus' command to love your neighbor as you love yourself quite like going to Cub or going to Hy-Vee, buying some food and inviting a neighbor over to eat with you. Not to convert them, but to care for them, to say to them through your hospitality, to say to them through your kindness, you are worthy of the energy and effort of this moment because you matter to God and you matter to me. So far in this series, we've got B-L-E. And so to discover the next letter of bless, the first S, we have to rewind the highlight reel about 2,000 years and take a good look at our favorite playmaker, Jesus, and one of the most memorable assists of all time. And I want to show it to you today. So if you have a Bible or open up your app and go with me to John chapter 13. John chapter 13. Now, this passage, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful, as well as challenging passages in the whole Bible. And to truly understand the play that Jesus is making here, we have to take a closer look at, number one, what led him up to this moment, and number two, what is going to take place immediately after it. So what led up to the moment in John chapter 13 is simply this. It's not in the story of John, it's in Luke. But it tells this story about how the disciples were fighting with each other about who would be the greatest. Who's going to be in the Hall of Fame? Who's got the most potential? They were fighting with each other. And Jesus interrupts the conversation and he says, no. We don't play like that. That's not the rules that we play by. The greatest is actually the least. The first is actually the last. The most important is actually the one who serves. And he gives us this incredible lesson about what it's like, this upside down kingdom that he is instituting. But it's not just what happened before, it's what's going to happen next that makes this passage in John so important. Because in less than 24 hours, Jesus is going to be killed. And he knows it. He knows it. The clock is ticking. We are in the final minutes of Jesus' life. And that knowledge puts this passage that we're going to look at into perspective. It gives it a heavy weight. It gives it an urgent relevance because of what Jesus is about to do and go through. And it's against the backdrop of those two things, what happened before and what's about to happen, that we check out John chapter 13, verse 1. It says this: before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave the world and return to his Father. He knew he was going to die. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. Skip down to verse 3. Jesus knew that the Father had given him, now check this out, authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. Now the question is, the disciples are bickering amongst themselves about who was the most important, but who really is the most important person in the room right now? Who is the real all-star on this team? I would submit to you that maybe it's the one who has authority over everything, right? Which somehow got missed in this moment, as we'll see. Because in this culture, at this kind of meal, a person of Jesus' stature, a famous rabbi, would be considered to be, at a meal like this, the guest of honor. He would have been, that kind of person would have received preferential treatment. They would get to sit at the front seat at the table. They would get to go through the buffet line before anybody else. That they would be at the front of the line to get their feet washed before dinner gets started. But something's not right in this story. Something's not right in this story, because usually in a first century context like this, when a room was rented for some event like this, a meal like this, when a room was rented, a servant would be included in the price of the room, and the servant's job would be to take care of the foot washing. They wore sandals back then. They tromped around in the dirt and dust and worse things. And so as they reclined to eat around a table, your feet would have been in someone else's face. So they washed the feet. It was maybe one of the most important parts of making the meal wonderful. And a person to do that would have been included in the rental rate. But for whatever reason, that individual wasn't present there that day. Maybe the disciples went cheap and rented the room with a Groupon, I don't know. I mean, it is a bunch of dudes, so maybe they waited until the last minute. And they couldn't find someone in that time frame that they had. Or maybe, and this is what I speculate, maybe what happened is that Jesus actually dismissed the servant that was there because he wanted the opportunity to give his disciples one last memorable lesson. Whatever the situation, that person wasn't present, and nobody else wanted to do the job. I mean, they all filed into this dinner. They walked right past the water basin, thinking to themselves, I ain't doing that. That's beneath me. That's not my job. I'm above that. That's not a job one of Jesus' disciples, that's not one of the jobs I should do, the follower of this famous rabbi. That's a job for someone else. I'm guessing they probably said to themselves, I'm too good to do this. Maybe Peter should be the one to do it. He's always running his mouth. No, let Thomas do it. All he does is doubt anyway, right? Or just let one of the disciples nobody knows about. Let Thaddeus or Bartholomew do it. Nobody even knows who they are. They're never going to write a book of the Bible. They should just be happy to be on the team. Let one of those guys do this. Because this job was a lowly job. This was a filthy job, a dirty job. It was demeaning to do. And if there was anyone there who should not have to do this dirty work, it would be Jesus. But he flips the script. And he stoops and he does what needed to be done that no one else wanted to do. Look at verse 4. It says, so he got up from the table. He took off his robe, he wrapped a towel around his waist, and he poured water into a basin. And then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that he had around him. I mean, what a picture. The all-star becomes the towel boy. And in the same moment, that action becomes history's game changer for what it means to follow God. And it's all too weird. And you can feel the tension in the room. In fact, the awkward silence here is almost deafening, which is why Peter screams out, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? What? This doesn't make any sense. To which Jesus replied, you don't understand now, and you may not understand for a while what I'm doing here, but someday you will. Someday it's going to make sense to you. Someday you're going to get it. Jesus says, I know you don't completely get this here, but trust me. What I'm doing here, I'm doing on purpose for you. You need to understand what I am teaching you because in just a few weeks, I am going to pass the ball to you. This whole mission is going to be on you in just a few weeks. And if you don't have this lesson, if you don't have this play, if you don't understand what this movement is really all about, you won't be able to move the ball down the court. If you're going to do what I ask you to do, which is to love your neighbor as you love yourself and to make an impact in the world in my name, if you want to do that, you need to be able to do what I'm doing here right now. You need to be able to do what every playmaker can do, which is simply this: to see the opportunity and offer the assist. Every playmaker does this. They see the opportunity and then they offer the assist. They see the opportunity and they offer the assist. Essentially, what Jesus was telling them to do is the first S in our word bless, which is this: that he's calling us to serve with love. To serve our neighbors with love. And when it comes to offering the assist, Jesus says there isn't anything a playmaker won't do. Well, when it comes to serving your neighbor with love, there's no low to which you will not go. Which, by the way, is exactly what Jesus is trying to teach them here. It's why he chose to do what he did for these disciples. This is why he chose the dirtiest job to do, to wash their feet. Look at verse 12. It says, after washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, do you understand what I was doing? Which they're all like, no. This makes no sense to us. But then he explains it. Verse 13, you call me teacher. You call me Lord. You revere me. You give me the honor I'm due. And you're right, because that's what I am. That's what I am. Verse 14, and since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. I've given you the playbook. Do as I have done to you. Now, I thought, and I've read this dozens and dozens of times, this story. I thought that for us modern Christian followers of Jesus people, that this was like an antiquated story, right? That really doesn't have any relevance for us today. It's more of a metaphor for us this day. Until a few weeks ago, something happened that brought this passage to me in a brand new light. And what happened was this. About a month ago, I was heading on a few week departure from my house, from my family. I was heading to CHIC, the high school conference for our church. I was going to be a week there. And then I jumped in on the London mission trip to help out there because one of the leaders wasn't able to go. And so I was going to be gone from my house, my family, for about 3 weeks. And so the night before I left, I was laying on the bed, just kind of watching TV. Everybody was sort of chilling. And I was laying on the bed, and my little daughter, Gianna, came in, and she said, "Daddy, your feet are so gross." And I'm like, "I know this. Everybody's feet are so gross." She's like, "No, your feet are really dry. Do you care if I rub some lotion on them?" Don't make me cry. And so she proceeded to go get a towel. I mean, it was almost like the passage. Go get a towel and then wash them completely off, dry them completely off, and then put lotion on them. And I thought to myself, this is it. Like that's the passage. That she understands what a playmaker actually does. That they see an opportunity and they offer an assist. As small as that, "Daddy, your feet are nasty and really dry. Let me offer an assist. Let me help you out. Let me try to solve this simple problem for you," and put some lotion on them. I mean, seriously, this passage just blew up in my mind, what was happening. And what I learned from her that in that moment about the playmaker is that there is no role that is too simple for a playmaker. There is no job that is too menial for a playmaker to do. There is no action so insignificant that they will not offer the assist. That there's no low, too low, that a playmaker can't go. It's just like how Martin Luther King Jr. described it. He said it this way. He said, "Everybody can be great. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. All you need is a heart full of grace." And what that means is that you want nothing in return. You just need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. That's it, friends. And Jesus says that people like that, people who get what Dr. King is talking about, people who get what Jesus is talking about here, who get it and follow through on it, that those people are actually the happiest people on this planet. Look at what Jesus says in verse 17. He says, "Now that you know these things, now that you know this, God will bless you for" what? Say it out loud. "For doing them." That it's not just knowing that you should serve with love, but it's actually taking the step to do it. By being a blessing, Jesus says that you will also be blessed. And so, friends, that's what Jesus was trying to show us. When he picked up the basin, when he picked up the towel, and he dropped to his knee, and he touched those nasty, stinky, filthy feet to show us that there ain't nothing that a playmaker won't do. Not to serve with expectations, not to serve with some sort of agenda, hoping to receive something in return, but simply with the goal to see an opportunity and offer an assist. And so I just want to ask you as I close, what humble, head-turning thing can you do to serve with love? And let me just offer a few thoughts here. This last week, I was back home in Ohio visiting my family for vacation, and I got into a discussion with one of the teachers at my hometown school, and he had just started a church there. And he had talked about his relationship with the janitors and how he and his church helped them. They said, hey, what can we do to help you in your job to make this school look better? And they've developed that partnership. And I got to be honest with you. I noticed, I didn't know why, but I noticed immediately when I went in the school, it's the cleanest it's ever been. But that partnership is there. And so they're emptying trash as a church. They're washing, picking the little gum off the bottom of the desks. Like, it's nasty stuff. But they're finding creative ways to do it. And so maybe it's as simple as calling the teacher where your kid goes to school and saying, how can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I help you do what you do better? Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's even closer to home. You know, maybe what you need to do is maybe you need to go over and mow your neighbor's overgrown yard. Or send your kid over to go mow your neighbor's overgrown yard. Maybe it's the person that's moving in next door to you, because it seems like everybody's moving right now. Houses are selling like crazy. Somebody's moving in next to you or down the road to take a day off of work and go help them move in just because. Or maybe it's this simple. Maybe we just do what Jesus told us to do. And as you look out your window and see your neighbor in the heat, in the garden, struggling, working, or mowing their grass or weeding, that you walk over with a cup of cold water and you offer it to them. Just cause. Just cause you've seen the opportunity and you chose to offer the assist. You see, it's that simple and it's that complicated, but that's what Jesus calls us to do. To make those plays and to make a difference for your neighbor. And I know some of you, and this is what you'd say to me, you'd be like, oh, I know what you're thinking. James, that sounds great. Sounds great. But my neighbor doesn't deserve to be served. They're sort of the worst. And I just want you to know, one of my former neighbors was the worst. In fact, I had a tree blew leaves into their yard. He would bag them up, dump them back in the yard, or he would mow the street, all the leaves back over into my yard. Like I know the worst. I know bad neighbors. I know that. But what I'd say to you is simply this. Did Jesus' disciples deserve to be served? Did they deserve what he did for them? I mean, he knew what was going to go down. He knew the future, what was going to happen after the feet washing. He knew that those 24 feet were about to dash for cover and that 2 of those feet sold him out for 30 pieces of silver. He knew they were going to disown him. He knew that they were going to be gone as soon as he was arrested. But what did Jesus do? He showed up and he showed us that we wash people's feet not because they deserve it, but because they need it. And because it's the right thing to do. And because whether or not you realize it, it could very well be the game changer for them. Which is a big deal for us at Crossroads because we believe no game is not an option here. We want to see the opportunities that no one else around us sees. And when we see them, we offer the assist. We serve our neighbors with love. We want to get in the game and start making memorable plays. That's who we are. And so I want to ask you, are you in the game? Are you in the game right now? If not, I want to invite you to get in the game. And the way that I want to do that is with a prayer that we put together that you can take with you this week. Rip it out, cut it out, put it on your dashboard, put it on your mirror, put it somewhere where you can see it and pray it every day. And it's simply this, the Playmaker's Prayer. God, give me the eyes to see opportunities in front of me so that I never miss an offer to assist. Give me eyes to see the opportunities in front of me so that I never miss a chance to assist someone else with love. Y'all ready to do that? Guess not. You ready to do that? Yeah. Let's pray. God, we pause right now, just so grateful that you modeled this for us. I mean, in one of the most memorable ways possible. That you showed us that as followers of Jesus, as playmakers in your kingdom, on your team, that there is no low to which we cannot go to serve another. That there's nothing that's above us. Because you had all authority over everything, yet you chose to take a towel and to take a knee and to do the thing nobody else wanted to do. And God, you did that for us, not just with feet, but on the cross as well. You died for us so that we could live for you. And God, that is our prayer today, that we would be able to do that. And it's in Jesus' wonderful name that we pray. And all God's people said, amen, amen.